First of all, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing frogs.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go along that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they weren't talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got nothing.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Come on, Lou Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but
the
an
Guyanese critic.
erratic
Mikhail
detective, Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? Look, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Kingdom, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Good evening. Welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show with co-host Leonard Craig. We have an interesting personality tonight, and what he has to say will obviously go into the history books. This man was a foundation member of the AFC and in fact edited the constitution of the AFC. So you can see he was there from the beginning. But we're going to hear a lot about the terrains that he traveled on in Guyana. He was lieutenant colonel in the Guyana Defense Force. He was a magistrate, which meaning, of course, he is a qualified lawyer. He was also the chairman of the National Broadcasting Authority, and he's very strongly religious. Communication officer of the Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints. So he has acquired different statuses, all of which are important for us. Our guest this evening is practicing attorney at law, Leslie Sobers, who is also very well known to my co-host, Leonard Craig. Leslie, I've known you a long time, so we're looking forward to you expanding on all the different dimensions of your life. Leonard, good evening. First of all, Leslie, I don't think this country knows that you are one of the men, one of the citizens that actually edited the constitution of the AFC. That was some years back. And how did you felt at that time being associated with this party that was taking Guyana by storm?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Freddie, and co-host Leonard, whom I know very well. Both of you.
Well, you succeeded him.
Yes, I
did. You
succeeded
him as chairman of National Broadcasting. I wonder if he messed up. So when you
He had a lot to clean up.
When you went there, you said, "What the hell did Craig did here?"
Well, I wouldn't have said what the hell Craig did here. I would be saying what the hell went on here.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, I know you, Freddie. You were my politics lecturer at UG, if you can remember those days.
Yes,
back
of course,
then.
I remember you.
And
I remember people who stand out in the society. I said, "Oh, I taught him at UG." When you became a magistrate, I told people, I said, "I taught this guy."
Okay. So I remember those exciting days. And then I remember also standing in the corridor of the magistrate's court, and Mr. Kemraj Ramjatan invited me to consider becoming a part of the AFC. So many years ago. I thought about it, and then I walked into the office in Cummings Street and applied to be a member, and I became a member. And one of the first orders of business, if you may, when I became a member, was reviewing the Constitution. And I reviewed it and I edited it in time for, I think it was the second biennial Congress or the second Congress, which was held at St. Stanislaus. Yeah. Right, so the Constitution was amended and ready for that conference. And at that conference, I was also nominated and duly elected a member of the national executive of the party. And that was my entry into politics, if you may. At that time, however, I was a member of the Guyana National Reserve at the rank of captain. I think it was captain at that time. And then I was subsequently promoted to major. And then it was time for me now to be promoted to lieutenant colonel. Now, at that level in the Army, one has to be neutral. So I relinquished my membership with the AFC and gave my undertaking to the Army and the then President Bharat Jagdeo that I will honor my obligation of neutrality. And I have since not been, I didn't renew my membership, so I've since not been a member of the AFC. I honored my obligations to my country and to the Army by remaining neutral. And in 2015, when the government changed, and that same year I retired from the active reserve, I remained neutral. And since then to now, I haven't renewed my membership. So there's one little misconception I'd like to clear up here, take this opportunity to clear up, is that a number of persons had this belief that those who were appointed under the Grinders administration had to be APNU or AFC. I can safely say at that time I was, that's past tense, AFC, but I believe my succession to the board, succession of Leonard to the board of the Broadcasting Authority had to do with my knowledge of the broadcasting industry, my years of practice as a broadcaster, and the fact that I hold a bachelor's degree in mass communication, specializing in radio and newspapers. So it was on that basis that I was invited to become chairman of the board, and I did accept.
Okay. You used the word neutral, and it therefore means you were observing party politics from a distance. Or at least there was some distance, even if it's arm's length. How do you evaluate the politics from, let's say, 2011, from Ramatar's administration to now? How the dynamics from your observation point, and the reason I'm asking you this, having been in politics, which means there is something about Guyanese politics that you were interested in and that you probably liked to take you into the AFC, and then because of your duties you step back, making you an observer. Can you give us your impression about the workings of the government? Why do you think the government changed hands and then changed back hands in 2020?
Well, I was first of all enthused by the position of the AFC and its quest for all inclusivity or inclusiveness of Guyanese. So the AFC struck me as a party that could transcend the racial insecurities of our people and bring about that harmony that is necessary for a thriving, healthy nation. Well, that was a difficult task. And through the years, my assessment was that the AFC did not effectively bring that to an end. I don't know if any party could effectively bring it to an end because politics in Guyana is still race-based. East Indians cleave in the majority to the PPP because they believe that they will gain some kind of security economically, socially under that party. African Guyanese cleave to the PNC because they have the same feeling of that party granting them some kind of security. And AFC was supposed to be the party in the middle that transcended those two barriers. But the first appointments to Parliament for members of the AFC became rife with racial insecurities, and in the selection of parliamentarians, we saw a whole lot of disquiet emerging, and race stepping into the forefront. So the selections were, the leaders were accused of racism in their selection for members of parliament. And then I realized that this party has not been able to cross that barrier because the very members who were supposed to sit in parliament, some of them are arguing on the same basis. A whole lot of the overseas members were arguing on the same basis. And so I became disenchanted, but I maintained my membership with the hope that things would improve. So, has it improved? I wouldn't be able to accurately say because I have not been a member, not been involved for many, many years now, so any assessment would be inaccurate. But what I can safely say is that in the beginning, the AFC was in touch with its support base. Persons could have gone to the headquarters and meet leaders. After 2015, AFC lost contact with its support base. You would go to the AFC headquarters and you can't get to see your leaders because they became so involved in government, if I may, and they became somewhat officious, if I may use that term. So a lot of protocol, a lot of red tape came into being, and they just simply lost touch with their common membership. By that time, of course, I had already not renewed my membership, and I don't know if between 2015 and now, any effort was made to reground, if you may.
Generally speaking, that is, if I may offer an opinion, I feel generally speaking that is an issue with the AFC. Its inability to quote unquote, to use your term, reground with people and former members. But they would have to work that out. What is your opinion of AFC in its current form? Nigel Hughes being the leader. How do you see the party faring at the next general election, which is just about 10, 11 months from now, 9, 10 or 11 months from now?
Well, to begin with, I would refrain from making any comments about my fellow attorney at law.
Yeah, well, Mr. Hughes is a fellow attorney, so maybe we could speak in more holistic terms. The AFC.
That's what I'm saying. The AFC generally.
So how do I see the AFC faring? Not much different than it fared when it was by itself.
2011.
If the AFC was not to go back into the coalition, I don't see them gaining as many seats as they had in the past. So it might be more prudent for the AFC to maintain its connection with the coalition.
You think?
Yes, that's my opinion. I might be wrong.
On its own, it wouldn't get anything.
But on its it wouldn't get anything. You see, when the AFC was on its own, it had 6 seats in Parliament.
Yeah.
I am not sure.
With APNU, it got 10 when it was with.
And with APNU,
it got 10. It has 10 now. 9.
I don't see the AFC going on its own, maintaining that amount of seats in Parliament. I can see the party getting seats, but I can't see the party getting 10 seats.
Or 6. When it was by itself.
May or may not get 6.
All right. Your view is very optimistic, much more optimistic than mine. But I hear you, because I often say do not underestimate a party apparatus, and the AFC still has that. I've seen it at work. I know that they still have small groups around the country, and I often tell people in an election that counts for something.
Yeah.
Unlike ANOG and Change Guyana and some of these other parties which are Region 4 based, and they try to cover the entire country from Region 4, and they don't have that apparatus reaching through. And for me, when I calculate, your vote maximum, just like Schumann's party and all of them, your ceiling is under 3,000, right? I don't think AFC has that low of a ceiling because of the apparatus that they have.
No, if I may add, AFC is far stronger than those parties you're using in comparison. But a point you made there about the apparatus, I want to add to that as well. Don't underestimate the perception that persons may have of the current leadership of the AFC. From what I am hearing on the ground, there is confidence. Persons are seeing the AFC leadership as, presidential or prime ministerial. But the question of whether they will get 10 seats in Parliament, which would make a nice difference, is neither here nor there, because there are persons who are also disappointed, supporters of the AFC, who are still disappointed, one, with them having joined the coalition, and secondly, with how things were done when the coalition won the government. And those disappointments are still real. It's hard to fathom whether the people had justifiable expectations of the coalition government. I believe some persons wanted to see change in rapid succession, and that doesn't occur. So there's that disappointment, and I don't think they might make the 10 seats, but hey, if they do that, hats off.
Well, you have a figure in mind now.
No, I think AFC might get back 5 to 6 seats.
5 to 6?
That's my perception. I might be wrong, but like Leonard said, I'm optimistic.
My perception is 3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
No, my perception is 0. I don't think they're going to get 5,000 votes. And if they get a seat, they may, no. I think if they get a seat, it's probably going to be left over, what you call top up. I think the AFC has damaged the national psyche between 2015 and
Freddie,
2020.
that's an urban view.
No,
That's an urban view. And again, I'm saying do not underestimate the apparatus, the party apparatus that covers the nation. That view that you have is an urbanish view. A Region 4 view. They are still people who are willing to go out there and work hard for the AFC, and some of them exist in Region 8. There are some of them in Region 7. There are a few in Region 9. There are people still in Region 6. Not as strong as when the Ramayas and the Harbajan and so on were there, but this structure do exist.
Well, what view? My view is an urban view. What view you call that? I will call that a misguided view.
I hear you, but
Leslie,
I don't agree.
Leslie, there's something I want to point out.
But before you go there,
you go ahead.
You might be having a misguided view as to what the AFC might gain in the next election. 0 is not going to be it.
All right, I would say if there are any seats coming, and I want to take back what I've said about 0. No, I want to take that back. Actually, I don't know why I said that. I think the AFC is going to get seats, but it's going to get seats at the expense of the PNC. I think
I can live with that.
Right. I think they're going to pull votes from the AFC because people are going to say, look at these two guys, Norton and Hughes. No, man, I can't leave Hughes and vote for Norton. So I take that back, but it's going to be at the expense of the PNC. Now, I want to take you back some years ago. I want to take you back to 2005 when you helped to edit the Constitution. I regard you, and I've known you personally, and I've consulted you on legal matters. I regard you as a competent legal lawyer, very much so. But there's one mistake you made in your legal erudition that I'd like to, if you can give me an explanation for. When you were editing the Constitution, there's an opaque section in that Constitution that needs to go. And I don't think from 2015, 2005, since you edited, no one wants to remove it. It says the AFC should have term limits, and the leader may choose not to run after 2 years. And then Ramjatan ran again and pointed to that. It said may. I'm under no legal obligation. Why did you leave in the may and didn't put in term limits?
The general trend of things at that time was to allow a leader who would have garnered the support of the followers of the party to be able to still give that type of leadership and still be at the head of the party if the people wanted him to be there. And unless he himself did not want to be there, contrary to popular demand, then the will of the people is that he should be there. So he may excuse himself after 2 years. He may refuse to run again. But if the people really want him and he is competent enough to continue, then he could continue. So the may was to allow for the people's will to be demonstrated in the continuing leadership of the person they believe should lead. So that may give the leader the opportunity to run or not to run.
Okay.
Let's take a quick look at the broadcast landscape, having been the chairman of the Broadcast Authority. the PPP has opposed, and I heard the current Attorney General, up to his last issues in the news podcast program that he has, criticized the changes to the legislation that was made, and I think they were passed while you were chair. And I don't know if they were conceived. No, I don't think they were conceived, but they were passed around that time. And I think what they're referring to specifically would be, I think there is part in the law that says the government could commandeer space on the airwaves for public purpose. Where do you stand on that? And any other comment you have generally about the current broadcast?
Well, I don't think it was a situation where the government could commandeer. It's what happens in the broadcasting industry internationally. First of all, broadcasting entities are using an asset that belongs to the people. The frequency in radio, television, and even cable.
It's part of our national patrimony.
Right. And so something has to be returned to the people, because airtime is not for free. First of all, the broadcasters have to pay for their licenses, have to pay for the frequency. The commercial entities that are advertising have to pay for that entity, have to pay for the space. And so where does that leave the average man? The average man will end up paying for that same space because it's going to be included in whatever service or good is being advertised. Nothing is for free. So the ordinary viewer or listener is bearing that cost without knowing it. Fine. So the public service announcements and public service programs is what pertains throughout the world. And so the act was amended for our broadcasters to allocate 1 hour, not a single block of time, but throughout the day. The public service announcements could accumulate to 1 hour. And after you would have satisfied that hour, well, unless there is a national emergency, like a flood warning, you don't really need to go further. In other countries that I have researched, that requirement is 2 hours. So Guyana was very gracious. The thing is, that's in the law. But persons have not been taking up the challenge to create public service messages. We would get high tide warnings, and the government may want to make some sudden announcement. There may be a health issue that would be in the public domain, but nobody has since designed programs that would be intended to deal with, and I should say this in a sustained way, because you get bits and pieces here and there, but there's no sustained, reliable formulation of programs addressing and making aware issues that are prevalent in society. So let me take, this is my pet peeve. We are becoming a very indisciplined people. We are so indisciplined that we see it in the manner in which we conduct business. We see it in the manner in which we traverse the streets. We see it in the manner in which people react to one another in driving. If a driver is peeved by some maneuver another driver makes on the road, he behaves in a very belligerent manner to the other driver. And all of that too can be related to things that are happening that should not happen, excuse me. So for example, we have persons in authority that are involved in the transportation business. Let's call them big ones. Big ones who own buses and trucks. And they seem to be able to do what they very much please. Here's an example. I saw a truck. I wouldn't call the name of the company that owned the truck, but the truck was without a registration number. Blazing down his back. So the man of driving of the truck.
Somebody, you can't take down.
You can't take his number. So,
sorry to laugh at that, but
it's funny indeed. The manner in which the driver was traversing this down the road, maneuvering this truck. So I stopped a policeman. I stopped and I asked the policeman, "Did you not see that truck without registration number?" Policeman said to me, "Mr. Sobers, this is not the only one. That company has several trucks that don't have registration numbers. If they don't have registration numbers, that means they don't have insurance." And the policeman said to me that they stopped them before. They got a telephone call saying, "Let that truck go."
What?
And one of the drivers, when they pulled in one of those trucks, said to the policeman, "Hold a minute," got on his cell phone, and he said to the policeman, "It's just a matter of time with you look the phone." Got the phone, got instructions, and he said, "Go your way." I mean, when influential persons in society can have that kind of leeway, just using the traffic as an example, you get a general idea of where we're slipping, because that may be existing in other spheres of life.
Before I come to the religious aspect of your life, there's a question that I just want to ask you, if when you succeeded Craig as the chairman of the National Broadcasting Authority, you found anything financial wrongdoings in his part?
No.
He didn't do it.
No, not at all.
You are the communication advisor of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That thing that you just talk, I mean, most religious people that I have spoken with have this thing about Guyana is really indiscipline, it has broken down. Religious people, I find, speaking to me, tend always to carp on that. You think this society is breaking down?
Well, that will take me back to when I was a practicing journalist at Chronicle newspapers.
Yeah, that's long ago. Yeah.
That's long ago. J.O.F. Haynes, at that time, was lecturing at the University of Guyana, and I had the opportunity of studying at his feet, if I may, in the law of defamation for journalists. And he made a statement which attracted the attention of persons in society, that Guyana was becoming an amoral society. And so there was this hullabaloo, and I had to interview the learned legal luminary and clarify the issue that he said Guyana was becoming amoral and not immoral, as some persons had believed he was saying. So if we go back to those early observations of J.O.F. Haynes, that we were becoming amoral, and we try to see whether there is any dialectical relationship between a society being neither here nor there with morality and the need to be disciplined, we will find that his assessment was somewhat accurate, because a really successful society, the people harbor internal restraint and know what they ought to do and what they ought not to do. In a society that is slipping, you have to have laws about everything, and not only just have laws, but you have to have the enforcement mechanism. So, diverting a little bit there, in this country, we have a lot of laws. We have a lot of laws. One of the things we don't have is the ability to enforce all of them. So if a law is not being enforced, then it's useless. If a law is not enforceable, it is useless. So here's an example of how law is not being enforced in this country. Many drivers have all kinds of nice curly writing on their number plates.
Yeah.
That's regarded as an obscure number plate. The law says specifically the size, the width, the height and color of your number plate. Yet persons and policemen too are driving around with all kinds of nice, fancy writing, I would like to call it. In the city, there is a regulation against traversing the sidewalk with an open umbrella. We don't enforce that. There is a law against spitting on the roadway or on the pave. We don't enforce that. There are laws governing how each Guyanese must regard the environment. As a matter of fact, it's a constitutional duty upon every Guyanese to do that which is necessary to protect the environment. To protect the environment means don't throw your garbage all about the place.
Yeah, there is a law against something called dirty yard. And if they come around and meet your yard dirty.
On how much vegetation that is growing in the drain in front of you and on the carpet in front of you. We have regulations for all kinds of things. We have regulations that in broadcasting, each television studio must employ the services of a sign language, let's say signer, to highlight and communicate at least one major newscast or one major program on television for those who suffer from hearing impairment. We have a law, but how many television studios have a person doing signage for those who suffer from hearing impairment? We see it happening with GCOM advertisements. So if GCOM could source someone to do that for their advertisements, why the broadcasters can't adhere to the law?
But what about actually? Let's go. You just now you became a linguist, expert in grammar. Just likely saying that between something is amoral and immoral. As a big official in one of the well-known churches in Guyana, oh, by the way, you have a very high position in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He's a practicing guy from the Seventh-day Adventist. I am the Hedron, or what you call it, the Philistine in this thing. Do you think there is a moral, ethical, attitudinal breakdown in society in which people are not as caring as they were before, respect for elders, respect for animals, as a practicing Christian? Are you concerned? Do you see that as a concern, or it doesn't exist?
Well, I wouldn't regard it in an absolute manner. So there's no absolute contention that it is, but it would be accurate to say that it is happening, and happening with the kind of frequency that is unnerving. So this thing goes back a far way back. Generally, Freddie, a person would bring to his business endeavors, to his driving, for example, the manner in which he was brought up. So the present generation, the persons who are in their 20s, who have had years of influence in following the law, not being something to matter. They may come from broken homes. They may come from homes that view law lightly. Like I've heard the term, the law was meant to be broken. The law was not meant to be broken. The law was meant to be obeyed. And if you live within the law, you're free from the law. So they would come to their driving, their perception of conducting business in the manner in which they were brought up. So it would be no big deal for a minibus driver or conductor to have our school children sitting one on top of the other when they, what do you call it, foursome or four up, or there's a term that they use, double up and triple up, double up and triple up. So here you have a minibus with our children in the back doubling up and tripling up, and the lewd music, man, the smut.
I saw something on Facebook yesterday, day before sometime, small young children singing at their school party, repeating a song that is communicating lewd behavior. And these little children probably
singing that song.
Yeah, and they're repeating word after word and bouncing.
Is it a Jamaican dancehall song?
I think
May
so.
well be.
I can't remember exactly,
well
but I that flashed across me on Facebook, and I can't remember who exactly did the posting, but I saw it, and I was like, one out of two things: either the teachers are morally corrupt themselves, or they really did not. You know, some people just play a song. And they don't listen to it, and they just play
listen
it.
to the lyrics. The lyrics.
Or they lack
It's a
perception.
rhythmic song.
They lack perception.
Yeah, rhythmic song, so you just put it on and leave it.
Or they lack
you know.
perception. But I visited Jamaica thrice when I was at the Broadcasting Authority. And the purpose of those visits was also to understand how the Jamaican Broadcasting Authority operates. And I've been able to visit a studio, at least one studio. I was able to listen to their radio stations while I was there. And I'll tell you this, dancehall music is not aired in Jamaica on public airwaves.
Really?
No. The smut that we get here in Guyana and that we air on our radio and play in our minibuses is not played in the minibuses in Jamaica and is not played on national airwaves in Jamaica.
Well, look at
I know
that.
for
Look
sure.
at that.
I know for sure it is not played in minibuses, but I didn't realize that.
Neither the national airwaves.
Wait, Leslie. You know what you're saying there? Even in the country where it originated, there is a more sensitive
That's right.
attitude than in Guyana.
Than in our own country where we do anything, play anything. Oh my. And that's one of the things that the board that I headed for the Broadcasting Authority was working towards. We aggravated a lot of broadcasters. I listened to a song, I'm driving and I'm listening to a song by Alanis Morissette. It's called You Ought to Know. And that was being aired on one of the stations, and this song has a plain a word, an expletive in it.
I will tell you this, I've learned so much from these interviews. Honestly, in my heart, I didn't know that in Jamaica, those school children don't listen to that music in the buses because it's not played in the buses.
I know for sure it is not played in the buses.
No,
I
man,
know that for sure.
we
I've
got to
experienced that, but
if
I
that
didn't realize,
society where dancehall music is so much known, no man, it really means we got to step up our act.
We definitely have to. And dancehall music is played in Jamaica in close quarters. The building has to be soundproof. And I remember asking when I was in
that bad, Leslie.
Yeah.
We all that bad.
In Montego Bay, I asked someone about the street parties and what kind of music they play. They said, yeah, well, at the street party, you could play all kind of thing because it's in an area. I said, could I visit one? And the person said, no. We advise that you don't visit. Because if you go in, you got to wait until it's finished to get out. Because you can't come out that easily. It's so crowded and the cars are so packed that you would find it difficult making your way out. You might step on somebody's toes. So I was advised not to carry my research that far. But the point here is, even for something like that, it's not done in the city. It's done out of the city.
Well, you know, Leslie, it's ubiquitous in Guyana. It's not just Georgetown.
Just Georgetown is all over.
It's ubiquitous.
One thing I was amused about and continue to be is that I know small amounts of marijuana. I think about 3 years ago the law was thing. So if you get a possession of small amount, but marijuana is still illegal, right? And you can hear on our airwaves in Guyana, hey, I'm a ganja planter, something like that, and then I'm talking about how much pounds of ganja you, and I'm like, you know, the owners of the radio station should at least exercise some amount of.
But dancehall music sometimes is not anti-women or insulting to women.
Very, very insulting to women.
Some of them are, but there are some good ones, you know, that have positive. I'm
an old-fashioned guy. I don't listen. I saw the music. That's all the movie Dancehall Queen. I know that was a top-class movie. Jamaica can make good movies, but dancehall music, I find it insulting to women.
But I wouldn't bundle all of it in one thing and just throw it like that. Yeah, generally speaking, you have that, but there are also many singers who sing what people refer to as conscious lyrics.
Yes.
Right? Positive lyrics, try to get people out of crime, try to, you know, talk about society going in the right way, and so on. So let us not allow the bad ones to crowd out the good ones, but there are a few. There are some that you know.
Well, I would categorize those heavily syncopated songs that touch on concern social commentary, and not as hardcore dancehall music. The hardcore dancehall music glamorizes sexual intercourse and women. And that,
but those things play,
and we play them all over the place.
I live on the women embankment and I hear them all the time.
All over the place. So we
like for example, I heard
crime and
there's this song called "Hit and Run," right? And one day I went.
I'm an old guy.
Well, let me explain what a hit and run is in those terms. A hit and run is meeting somebody, having
a sexually driven song.
Having intercourse and then just leave. You have no responsibility. You don't have to contact the person.
Something like dirty love,
move on, right?
DUTTY, dirty love.
Yeah.
Listen, I am you young. I'm older than you. What's dirty love? I can't ask. You were practicing Seventh-day Adventist for a long time. He is a communication advisor for a big church in Guyana. So I'm putting it to the wrong persons. But
maybe
if you can take, but you're an academic and you're a practicing lawyer and was a former journalist. What is the dirty love?
No, so let me just finish, right? So one day I was
there's a diplomatic boss off.
One day I was at this place, Banks Place on Sheriff Street. To get some water.
Yeah, quick serve, Banks.
Yeah, and there was a car parked in front, right? You know those long cars with extra seat at the back? Is one of those 7 or 8 seater cars, a long car. And at the back of the car had at least 6 children, at least 6, maybe more, but at least 6. And this car was torn up to the loudest, playing this particular song. And these children knew the lyrics word for word, and singing to the top of their lungs. You hear what I'm saying to you? And it was the first time I heard the song playing, and I heard the words hit and run, but never have I learned the other words. Those children hearing, because remember, they are mouthing the song, and you could hear the words that you cannot hear from the original singer. Because remember, and when I heard word for word what's going on, I'm like saying, how the parents are allowing the parent turn up the song to the highest and went to get the water, and the children alone in the car rocking away and singing word for word for word. And I'm like,
if our viewers, for the benefit of our, no, not for the benefit, I will ask our viewers if they could email me, fredkissoon@yahoo.com, and my cell number is 614-5927. I can't get these two religious persons to tell me, define what is dirty love. So please communicate with me and tell me what is dirty love. Joe, before we go into another question, just an aside, you shared the law firm with the famous Joe Harmon, who became the minister of the presidency. Where is Joe? Is he still in the law firm?
Yeah, he's still in the firm, he's still in the country, and he's still in practice.
So he goes to court?
I've never seen him in recent months physically in the courtroom, but you don't have to be in the courtroom to be doing legal work. So he does legal work. And he's a notary public, for one, and he represents companies in somewhat non-contentious matters. So yeah, he visits the chambers.
Younger attorneys attached to it.
Has associates, and he has a staff.
He comes to the office?
He does, yeah. He does come to the office and does work upstairs. And
is he writing anything on political experience of 2015?
I couldn't say.
Let's go on. As a foundation member who edited the Constitution, Leslie, could you point at one thing? Maybe if you want, you can go on to more than one. Could you point at one thing that when the AFC got into power, you said, no, this is wrong. They should not have gone in that direction. And it jolted you?
There was one thing I really did not agree with. I cannot say that I aired my feeling, and that was shared, let's say, governance of the chairmanship. Remember now,
chairmanship of what?
Or the party leadership, if you may be. There was this talk that they would rotate between the three leaders of the party. Mm-hmm. Someone would serve for a time, and then the next one would. That I didn't particularly agree with.
I'm talking about government performance.
Oh.
No, he was talking from 2015.
2015 to
2020.
What did...
Was there anything that you said, what are they doing? Why are they going in that direction? What kind of policy is that? Is there anything that...
There was a whole lot, but
you could think of one that revolted you?
I'm not sure that I even want to go in that direction.
Please go. These things go into the history books. To 20 to 25 years from now, people look at these programs when they're writing the history of Guyana, and you have a wealth of experience. So we need to hear what you. Come on, 1, 2, 3, or a couple of them.
I did mention earlier that I thought the leadership became quite officious, and that they lost touch with the common membership. And I'm being very careful here because
you still got friends in the AFC.
I have strong contacts still in the AFC, and from a legal point of view, I will not, and I don't want to. Politics is a very funny endeavor, and I want to really refrain from making certain assessments, because I did it once when I was at the Broadcasting Authority. I shared my opinion. And there was backlash. It was backlash. There was a lot of backlash, and persons took to social media. And I wasn't very comfortable with it because I was misunderstood. I normally say to my friends that period was the time I dipped my toes into the political geyser and found it was too hot. And so I would not have jumped into the pool. With that in mind, I still want to keep my feet out of it. I want to remain a professional where I could work with any government for the development and betterment of Guyanese as a whole. And the church in which I'm a member also strongly advocates that principle. We are non-partisan and we do work for Guyanese as a whole. So my seeming stuttering is not ignorance. I'm being very careful and refusing really to go into that area, Fred.
Let me ask you a question. While you were on the broadcast authority, did you receive any guidance about what is the government's definitive position, one, on the previous license that were issued under the AFC? Because remember, during campaign time, they said they were going to cancel these licenses, whatever. Did you receive any specific order or guidance from the coalition government to rescind or whatever thing with those licenses? And did you also receive any guidance as to what is the government's policy on broadcasting?
Well, yeah, the government's policy on broadcasting, yes, we did discuss that. But no minister of government, not even the prime minister, not even the president at that time, ever attempted to give me directions as to how we must issue licenses or how we must revoke people's licenses. We had laws, we had guidelines, and we had regular consultations with broadcasters. But ministers did ask me questions because they were under, when the coalition just won the elections, they were under this perception that the then President Jagdeo, no, it was not Jagdeo, it was Ramutar was the president then, but they felt that President Jagdeo under his tenure had violated some law. That's not true. Because first we must understand what happens in our country. When we elect a president, we elect him to do all the work. But he comes to the electorate saying, these are the ministers, these are the persons that will aid me in handling the affairs of this nation. And so we vote for them. President Jagdeo did not appoint a minister of information, and if he doesn't appoint a minister, then that portfolio becomes his responsibility. So for all intents and purposes, President Jagdeo was the minister of information. And the Broadcasting Act was not yet in force. So he very much had carte blanche. And he issued licenses, but one can't say that they were illegally issued. So when I assumed the chairmanship, when I was sworn in and so on, I explained to the APNU ministers who had questioned me whether I would be going in that direction, that I could not. Because one of the stations that came under focus was Freedom Radio. So yeah.
Who owns that?
PPP.
PPP.
So I had to explain to them that Freedom Radio was one of the broadcasting entities that was always upfront with their payments. They never lapsed with payments. I had a little bit of a run-in with them when some of their songs, the vulgarity slipped out. And so we had to call them in for fitness, but that was dealt with amicably, because we had systems in place of how we deal with it. We don't just jump down the throat of a broadcaster if there's an error on air. But no minister has ever attempted to direct me. And I'm going to say to you, without fear of contradiction, what Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu said to me at one of our meetings. He said, Leslie, I'm so glad that you're the chairman of the Broadcasting Authority, because I know that no minister could give you any direction as to how your board must operate. And I asked him why he feel that way. He said, because you're a lawyer and you will only work in accordance with the law. And that's what we did under the governance of the APNU.
But since you mentioned
Party.
Freedom Radio, do you think political parties should own radio stations?
Well, I had a discussion with the head of the broadcasting. Why should we not?
From having that right.
I had a discussion with the chairman of the Broadcasting Authority for India. And he said to me that the same thing pertains in India. He said political parties have their own radio stations, and there are privately owned radio stations and television stations that are sympathetic to certain political parties. So they're biased. So how would you analyze Fox News when it comes to the Republicans? You listen to them and you'll get an idea. I listen to certain, and by the way, religious. I listen to a religious station called Redeemer Broadcasting. And, you can sense that that's a Republican slanted religious radio station. They're not.
So you're comfortable.
we gotta go.
Outwardly, they're not outwardly partisan, but you pick it up.
But you're comfortable a political party owning a radio station?
Yes, I have no difficulty with that.
Okay.
Our operator signal, our time has come, but we have to ask this question. You've been a long practicing lawyer, you've sat on the bench as a magistrate. Just briefly before we go, the state of the rule of law or the state of Guyanese jurisprudence, you're comfortable with it or you're overtly concerned about its direction?
Lawyers are never totally comfortable. That's why we have courts of appeal. In terms of the administration of justice in Guyana, I can't flaw it, but there are times when things occur that are contrary to the achievement of justice. And when those things occur, we refer to a higher court. Right now, I'm in the full court. The full court of the High Court, challenging a decision of a judge. And I have another one in preparation. So our judiciary is independent, and the manner in which justice is meted out is not different from any other country, and it is not corrupt. And there are times when mistakes are made, when decisions are taken, and we have a higher court to examine whether those decisions were sound or not.
A quick one.
Yeah, quick one.
Do you think politicians in leading positions should publicly chide the work of judges and magistrates? For example, the other day, Anil.
Well, without mentioning that, generally I would say it would be unsafe.
Well, we got all that.
But politicians still do have freedom of expression.
I wish you would ask that before time ran out, but time has come. We gotta go. So I'm asking both of you before the program closes. Would you tell me, an old man, what is dirty love?
I think I would let your listeners write you on that matter.
Thanks for being with us. You were looking at a very, very experienced Guyanese, former captain in the army, former journalist, former magistrate, former head of the Broadcasting Authority, and currently long-standing practicing attorney, Leslie Sobers. It was an interesting conversation, and these kinds of things we all, as Guyanese and those who are looking outside the Guyana, learn. I did not know that in Jamaica you cannot play dirty music in public transport. I will have to research what is dirty love. On behalf of our guest, Leslie Sobers, my co-host, Leonard Craig, we will see you on Friday. Have a pleasant rest of Wednesday and the week. Bye-bye. Catch you later.